for coming out today. I'm really excited to bring 1 Million Cups into Silver Cloud. I just started here as a director of sales in April. It's kind of been a journey because hospitality got hijacked a little bit and that kind of like put my career and my vision on hold for about 4 years. So being back in a space where I just kind of like know how to hit the ground running, build community, and create experiences that people have long-lasting memories from is really exciting to be able to do that again. So Silver Cloud, just a little blurb on them, is a local Pacific Northwest hotel brand, and they have 8 properties in Washington and 1 in Portland. They just launched their brand new website, so definitely check out silvercloud.com. Check out some of the amazing locations they have. They're all really like focused on nature, a really great view somewhere like Mokotio, we have a stadium location, and obviously our location here in Virginia is pretty awesome. So how did I get here? I just wanted to kind of like figure out how to present and show you what I've done in the past 4 years and how we all are here today. So this is kind of like talking about networking overall, the importance of it, strategies for how you follow up effectively, and then just a few people that inspired me, some of the case studies just to show you that, you know, it really does work. And yeah, so I'm excited to do that. So the importance of networking. People use networking to build relationships and kind of either improve their career, or maybe you just want, you know, more business and you're a small business owner, or, you know, maybe you're just trying to understand what type of impact you need in your market. And so just getting involved in your local chambers or your community somehow, some way is really good. The number one thing to know is that you could go into a room like a Seattle Toast Chamber event and you'll see like 100 people. It can be very overwhelming, right? So the number one thing to know is like, even if you just come out of a room of 100 and you meet that one quality person, it's going to be good for you, because the next time you go to another event, that person might be the one that introduced you to the person you really need to know. So just being able to be transparent is going to help you build the trust and support that you might get from that person. And once you get a chance to maybe have coffee with them or connect with them on a more personal note later, you're going to find what you can do to collaborate and support each other. How I did that with 1 Million Cups, for example, is I started at a space in Pioneer Square. I need to build community up during COVID. And it was just kind of devastating after that time of like being on shutdown. I was already networking all throughout COVID. I was always networking. So I was connected to local community groups like the GSBA and some alliance groups. One of the people I knew in the group that I was in was Matthew Hagum, and he followed me after a networking event that I was already involved into my office space. And he was like, how do we like help you grow this community during this time? And I was like, you know, that's a really great question. I'm still just getting my feet wet here and I'm trying to figure that out. And then later he was like, do you know about 1 Million Cups? And I was like, no, I've never heard of it. Let's check that out. And so he was like, well, it used to be at the Collective pre-COVID, and now they're trying to figure out a new space to meet. So I was like, well, all for it, let's do it. And I got it approved, and then we were able to start our first event in February of 2022. During COVID, where people were still masked up, we had about 45 people show up in the space. And Dan was able to present, and Matthew was able to present. And then we took that and put it on a rotating series every second Wednesday in person. And so it was kind of like full circle of just me being able to kind of use that networking experience from my former gig, bring it into something new, build community, and now we're all still here today getting connected. So that's a really cool example of partnerships and connecting with each other. And then I will move forward. Just leveraging your network opportunities. Like, how did I do that? Right? I just kind of had a vision. I did create a vision board at Expansive when I first started. So I was like, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I can't figure out how to get to the top of the mountain. So I created this vision board where I was like literally looking over the abyss. And I was just kind of looking at all these mountains. And then I had a little staircase, and I was climbing up the staircase. And that vision board was saved on my desktop. So I saw it every day. And it just kind of helped me get inspired. So whenever I was going out, connecting with people, I just always had this like bigger picture of where I wanted it to go and how I wanted to build it. So these are just some things I kind of put in here, so I'll just read them off. So access to new resources and information. When you go to like different networking events, you're gonna get access to things that you might need that you didn't really know that you needed. Like people might share something that you're like, oh, I really needed that tool. During COVID, when I was like in hospitality, I connected with clients on a more like human way. Like I wasn't trying to sell hotel rooms anymore. I was just trying to be like, how are you doing? And then because I was reaching out and following up with my clients, some of them were like, well, why don't you get connected to your local community alliance group? So I got connected to the Uptown Alliance Group. I had no idea about these alliance groups before COVID. And yeah, I reached out to them. They were like, yeah, we want you to help us get involved. We're trying to like recover the neighborhood. We're gonna start doing community cleanups. Do you want to be a part of it? I was like, yeah. So then it was easy for me to go to networking events. Welcome in, and kind of have a thing to talk about during a time where I couldn't really sell travel and accommodations. I could still say, here's what we're doing right now to build up our community and get people to come out. And I was able to just kind of like promote those things through my network. And that inspired people. Like I didn't really realize how inspiring it was, but it inspired people. So people would reach out to me like, I want to come to your cleanup group, or I want to start a cleanup group. And so it was kind of like a way for you to still have something to kind of connect with people on a human level, even though I couldn't really build big contacts during that time. Collaborations and partnerships like 1 Million Cups and Silver Cloud here, you know, like it's a really great way for me to kind of promote this space and have all of you come in because you probably haven't been in here before. So having the partnership that I had with 1 Million Cups and prior roles has kind of like come full circle for me today. So it's really exciting to have you all here, and some of you know me from before, so it's really cool to see you all again. And then career advancement and professional growth. I definitely have like benefited from 1 Million Cups in my career because 1 Million Cups was something I started for like a former role just to kind of build community. But being so connected and doing that work kind of like gave me a name. So a lot of people like kind of started to know who Joy was and what she had done. And even when I wasn't there anymore, I was still kind of like involved with 1 Million Cups. And I went to a little happy hour from a friend's network thing and around Christmas time at the Edgewater. And I met Morgan, who's with Bragging Right. And she was like, "You're Joy?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "You're the Joy?" And I was like, "Yes, I guess." And she's like, "You did 1 Million Cups." I was like, "Yeah." So it's really kind of cool how that work benefited me and connected me to her, because at that time I was in a job that was kind of like a stepping stone. I was trying to get back into hospitality. I knew it was coming back. I knew it was no longer being prohibited for people to travel. And I knew I had the skill set to take myself to another level in my career. But I was having a really hard time getting the jobs I wanted. So I was getting to a point of like just kind of like burnout with the application process and applying and the interviews and knowing I was saying the right things or feeling like I was saying the right things, but then not getting the job. So like me going to that little happy hour, meeting Morgan, eventually I had some goals for the new year, obviously, and I connected with her and then she became my coach. And so for the first 3 months of the year, I had a goal of like where I wanted to go. And I knew I was like, before March, sometime mid-March, I really want to get this new opportunity and feel like it's coming to me. And she was like, all right, we're going to work on it. So having that connection, being a part of 1 Million Cups, collaborating with them in a past life and then bringing them back full circle is really cool, and how it's impacted me. And so hopefully my story can help you. And then there's obviously a lot of statistics. I did Google it and you can see a whole bunch of information about, you know, the numbers, but I just don't want to bore you with that. So we'll go on. Effective communication and listening skills. I mean, when you're communicating to people in a big room of networking, there's a lot of different ways to do that. So my friend, Alan Alabastro, is a photographer. He does all of the photography for big events in the city, like Fremont Fair and Summer Solstice, and he was a top photographer for the All-Star Game. He gets into all these huge events. He's like got the best networking advice. And number one, he says, if you see people like facing each other, they're in a bagel state. He's like, they're like glued together. He's like, don't go up to that bagel. That's not your circle. You got to go to the one that's like, if it's a group of people, they're more open. And they're like, well, they're just kind of like open. That's where you can fit yourself in. But if you go up to that bagel, you might get rejected and you might feel hurt about that. And you might figure out, what did I do wrong there? But that's his advice to me. And his other advice was like, I told him the first time I met him was at a chamber. I was like, I'm such an introvert, but I'm also an extrovert. So the minute that you start talking to me, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah. But the minute I walk into the room, I'm like, I'm not here to talk to you, I don't know where to go. But the number one other thing about me is I know I'm shy, so I usually wear something cool. And then someone talks to me, so I have to go through the whole break the ice thing. So learning how to effectively communicate is gonna be good, and then listening and just understanding like kind of like that vibe of where to go and how to share what you're about. Following up is huge. Now, I have a little ADHD. It's really hard for me after a networking event to figure out what are my next steps. So I definitely created some systems for myself. So if you think that that's something that you need to do, one of the things I did was when I was like hosting 1 million cups regularly, I would go to events. I knew what my marketing statement was. My marketing statement I expanded was, we're about creating experiences that people want to be a part of. How do we do that? Well, we have this really cool networking event every second Wednesday of the month. You can come there if you would like. So instead of me trying to figure out how to get on someone's calendar, or they reach out to me, and then we have this scheduling kerfuffle, and then we don't even meet, and then it's like a whole circle of wasting your time. It was like, I had a direct spot, and then they come meet me again if they have the time, and then come back and see me in person. And then I've had a system, you know, from the Eventbrite and registering for the event that's sunk up into my CRM, which is HubSpot. So you can find the tools out there that you could use that might help you get all of that stuff saved up. And then in HubSpot, I had a business development dashboard. So I could be like, okay, I just met 100 people at this event. Maybe 10 people signed up for my networking event. And then I can see who those people were that sunk up into my system. And then I can say, okay, this is a strong partnership, or this is a, you know, we're meeting, but we don't have a lot in common, but we're going to stay in touch kind of thing. So I can kind of like organize it that way. And that was really helpful for me as someone who get easily distracted and get lost in the abyss. So following up and then knowing kind of like what is going to work for you on your follow-up and having that picture of how that's going to work for you. And then utilizing social media for networking. I mean, the biggest one is LinkedIn, right? So really cool thing about LinkedIn is you can see everybody's face, you can see everybody's name. If you forgot someone's name, you go back, you'd be like, oh yeah, that was Ethan. And then you message them in LinkedIn, and then you can always have that to reference back and like, just in case you forgot, or if you got overwhelmed, you want to talk to 100 people, you're like, who do I follow up with next, or what their name was. I always get really distracted with business cards, so I try to streamline it through my LinkedIn. So yeah, okay, we'll go to the next. Strategies for effective follow-up. I feel like we kind of covered a lot of this. By the way, this is a really unique tool that I used on Monday. It's called Pop AI, and it's a presentation thing that could create a presentation for you. So it's my first time using it. I'm trying to figure out how I like it and working with AI things and learning the human aspects, but also utilizing it as a tool that helps you if you have a lot of stuff on your plate. So like I said, with LinkedIn, you can use those opportunities to create more customized follow-ups. You can say their name, you can talk to them about something, or you can write that note right there in the networking event to them. Sometimes I will do that because I don't want to forget what we talked about. So as soon as I meet them, I add them to my LinkedIn. I send them a message. I was like, hey, it was really good meeting you today. And it was really great talking to you about your business and what you do. I was really inspired about this thing that you did tell me about. So it's just kind of like, it's already there. I could go back to it and it's like, oh yeah, that's what we talked about. Just acknowledging shared interests or conversations. So I put an example here. So we have Jackie here. She is our organizer, but she does so many things. She's a master of ceremonies. She does PFA. I let her kind of do her whole intro, but Jackie and I met pre-COVID. So we met because I was promoting this hotel. I went to this little event that she was throwing. And from that point on, we were just synced. Like we just connected. I remember seeing her and I'm like, she's gonna be my friend. I don't know why, but she is. And then I brought her back to the hotel. We started doing things. We started talking about collaborations. We did so many creative, we had so many creative ideas. We kind of locked them up for a while. And then we were able to reunite after COVID and kind of like bring a lot of those things to life, which was pretty cool. And it's really cool that she's still here with me. So what's really fun is that I was at this event on Tuesday last week. And Alan, the photographer I told you about, was talking to me. He was like, hey, you know about Filipino night at the Mariners? It's gonna be this big thing. I wanna do this thing at the box yard and have this big event and maybe see if we can coordinate with the Mariners to bring the jackets, the Filipino like logo jackets over to the box yard. Because normally there's this long line around the corner and it's just really hard to get a jacket. But if we can collaborate with them, with box yard and then do this thing, it would be amazing. And I was like, oh, you know who you should get in touch with is Jackie, because she's all about the Filipino community too, and she's doing a lot of work on that. And then also she's an MC, so she can do a lot of the announcing, that big crowd, that big space, and really go in and make that experience more vibrant. So they got a chance to talk, and that was really cool of just me knowing Jackie and knowing Alan and knowing their interests and how to connect and seeing how I can help get them together. That's kind of how you provide value and assistance too. So that kind of goes hand in hand. So just acknowledging it and knowing it and keeping it in the back of your mind. And when the opportunity presents itself, you're able to do that. And then people are going to be like, what can I do for you? You know, and then you can say, oh, well, I kind of need to showcase this space. Maybe you can come here and check this out. So we'll go to the next slide. I'm going to do some blog stuff. So here, timely and consistent follow-up. This is hard, right? Because you get so busy, you go to a networking event, you have a lot of time to enjoy yourself and connect with community. But then afterwards, it's like, depending on what type of person you are, maybe you're like really good about getting right back in touch with people the next day. Maybe they're not getting good at getting back in touch with you until like a week later. So you just kind of have to feel it out and see what's good for you. I always try, like I said, I had that system where I sunk up everything into my CRM. I had a business development dashboard. That was easy for me to keep track of, like, oh, I haven't talked to them in 2 weeks. I should probably give them a call and see how they're doing. But the other thing about networking is what I started to do was like, oh, I know they're going to be at this networking event, so I'll just follow up with them there. So that way it was like less emails and more in person. And then I would have like something to talk about when I saw them at the next networking event. So definitely want to stay relevant. Following up within 24 to 48 hours is good. But if you also know that how busy they are, then, you know, maybe it's better if I just reconnect with them at the next networking event. And this keeping on with the communication, like once you're at a networking event, if it's a chamber event or it's a tech networking event, Seattle has so much to offer on so many levels of what kind of networking you can do. From the tech stuff like 1 Million Cups, the chambers, you know, you have Visit Seattle, which is your Convention Visitors Bureau. They do lots of events. You can check that out. There's other associations like Meeting Planners International. NACE is the National Association of Catering and Events. These are very hospitality focused, but there is like a lot of different associations that you can look up and see, like, this is my industry, what's out there for me, you know, and definitely look into that. So we'll go to the next one. Okay. Building long-term relationships. So sustaining the engagement beyond initial contact. How many of you know me? How long has what's the longest you think you've known me? Have you known me for more than 5 years? 2 years? 1 year? So I feel like I somehow got it, right? I figured out how to keep in touch with people. I feel like I made some sort of like connection with them. They wanted to interact with me more and more and more. And then because we did interact with each other over those courses of those years, we were able to collaborate and keep building and make stronger connections and refer each other to bigger and better things. Nurturing the relationships, kind of just went over it, but does any of you who raise your hand feel like I've nurtured the relationship a little bit? Okay, Kathy, I'll call you in what way?
Yeah, I gotta say, yeah, I'm very dense to share. Just during COVID, right, such a events and industry having nothing to do taking care of everyone. Joy actually reached out. We were, I would say, we were on market for sure, but we kind of just met. Before I got pregnant and then the shutdown happened, but she would call me to just check on me. And that did so much for my mental health. And then we would just carry on conversations. So that's how she nurtures. I think the one thing about Joy, out of the many things that you do this problem with people, is that you're persistent in a nurturing way. It's it's never forced, like just where the conversation. Leads us is where she's willing to join. I think a lot of people can get wrong at certain meetings, and if you don't have the patience for that, I think that's a sign that that's not the person that you want to continue connecting with. But she always seems to make it easy. But yeah, that's really true.
Cool. Anybody else? That's okay. We can move on. Seeking opportunities for reciprocity. I guess I could just wow you with the fact that I was able to win over a market in a really struggling neighborhood, and in 1 month signed 18 contracts, which was like triple the amount of time of number that I could sign in 1 month. So after working for an entire year, I was able to build community, connect with people, and I was able to get a referral that won me over $30,000 in contract revenue. And it put me on the map with my company. Everybody sent me like, they literally sent the report in an email and then circled Seattle and was like, wow. And then everybody was like G-chatting me and messaging me like, oh my God, it's so amazing. That stuff doesn't happen overnight. That happened overnight that month, but that was a lot of work. That was a lot of biz dev even from COVID, because I wouldn't have had 1 million cups to use in that space if I wasn't already networking before I took that job. So that's the wow factor. Successful networkers. Let's go to the next. So Matthew Hagan, he's not here today, but he was a former, he's still kind of former, right? So he is the person that introduced me to 1 million cups. He was networking with me in a different group called Outleads that was a partner of the GSBA. And they're the LGBTQ Seattle Plus Alliance Plus network. And I was a member of that group. And then because I was connected with that other Alliance cleanup group, they were the one that introduced me to Zach Cooper, who kind of told me about Outleads. So I started networking at Outleads for about a year before I met him. But it was really cool that I met him because I met him through the Outleads program. And then he remembered me because Jackie and I had actually collaborated on some other event and he attended that. So it all kind of like is so relative when you're networking and you don't even know what the full picture is going to be, but sometimes it gets you what you really need. So he was the one that wanted to talk biz dev, and he was the one that would get me comfortable, like talking about what I did. He helped me figure out how I was going to present what I was doing to people in a whole room full of strangers. He was very good about just kind of like giving me the brass tacks and then telling me like kind of like who to look for and who are the right people to reach out to. So he also got me really into LinkedIn. Clubhouse, if you ever use Clubhouse. Clubhouse is like one of those things where like, what's Clubhouse? And I was like, I don't know if I want to use Clubhouse, but he would be on Clubhouse and we would do these like small business think tanks like every Thursday at 11. And then there would be people would get on, it was like a radio talk show, and you just would like say your little elevator spiel. And you got really good at it because your voice, like you could only use your voice to kind of like capture people. So you would learn how to kind of do that little intro really well. And you would use your voice and the strength of your voice to kind of capture people. It was pretty cool. I talked to you about the neighborhood alliance groups and stuff, but yeah, he definitely was all involved with that. And he ended up being my first client at Expansive. So he not only just connected with me and said, here's some ideas, also I'm gonna invest in you too, and we're gonna make this a really cool thing. So, yeah. For the big one, it's Rupesh Patel. If you have LinkedIn right now on your phone, or you don't, look up Rupesh Patel. Like, this guy was the most influential hospitality guru during COVID. He did lives every Wednesday at 9 a.m. and people would jump on from everywhere. Anybody that was in hospitality would jump on. And he would do this little introduction called Hospitality Minute. And we would learn about what were the trends, what's going on. We're all going through this time of like unknown, and he was helping us get through it. And I might get emotional talking about it. So I would just say definitely check it out. He ended up winning awards as like the top hospitality influencer during that time. And he's still getting accolades for all of the work that he did during that time. So he definitely inspired me to keep going during a time that was really challenging. So yeah, definitely a big impact. So you can go to the next one. All right, so. All right, how are we on time? Tell me to cut it whenever I need to. So influence others to grow. The last two examples were really good personal case studies for me of like how I was able to grow from their influence. We kind of already talked about how I've influenced people in this room, but if anybody else that raised their hand wants to share anything. Yeah, go ahead.
You invited me to 1 million cups, so I appreciate that. And then finding more space to just be in like the Expansive, and then inviting me to new spaces, new events, like the event center. That's always been helpful, and you're probably responsible for many of my connections that I have, maybe 10, 15 people. So I think it sort of permeates, and then I introduce you back to the circles, maybe at some points. I think it's working.
Let's say here. Let's see. Insights. So I mean, statistically, if we're going off of numbers, pre-COVID, I only had 200 people I had following me on LinkedIn, and that was mostly people that I went to school with, or maybe a handful of people I went to work with. But now I have 2,000 followers. I think it was just mostly because during COVID, I was reaching out to people virtually. I learned how to use LinkedIn as a way to connect with people virtually, where I wasn't comfortable with that before, but that was something I was kind of forced into because we weren't able to go see each other, right? So I watched Rupesh Patel, I watched other influencers, I learned from them, and then I followed. So it helped me create a lot of new opportunities. It helped me like build friendships that are actually like in my personal friendship group, but then also professional. So personal impacts, helping others by referring, educating, and finding solutions to elevate their networks. I mean, that's kind of what it's all about. And we've already kind of given those testimonies today, so thank you for that. All right, here you go. You can follow me on LinkedIn if you're not already. And then I do have new business cards in the back for Silver Cloud. Basically what I do here is everything. I book the rooms, I set up events. So if you're having like a master class and then you have people coming in from out of town, we can do the training here, and then I can give you a special group rate for anybody that needs to stay overnight during that training. If you know people that are looking for big groups or big things, feel free to refer me. I'm happy to help them get the best rates in Seattle with the parking. It's all that jazz. Thank you guys.
So this, you were the term pleasantly persistent or.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, the term, we're following up with people, so if you have somebody that maybe. It's unlikely they're gonna be a client, but they might be a referral partner or somebody that collaborate with you, and you wanna follow up with them, with that relationship. Like, is there an appropriate amount of time, I guess, when you first meet them, you spot contact information, you don't hear back from that person initially. Like, is there an appropriate amount of follow-up, or do you just figure like, oh, well, that person is gonna connect? Or if you have connected with them, maybe you talk to them, how often do you connect with that person to connect the relationship?
Yeah,
You process that.
so I think it's like understanding the tone too, so there would be times like I hosted events and then I got really good feedback from someone like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna send you a referral, I'm gonna totally connect you to this person, and they're gonna come in and they're gonna get you a great deal. Office space or whatever I was promoting at the time. Cause I was like, oh, that sounds really great, thank you so much, this is the whole reason why we're hosting these events. And then I emailed them and I never heard back. And then I went to another networking event and then they were there. And they were like, oh, sorry, I'm really busy right now, I'm so sorry, I'll get back to you. And I didn't even say anything, I was like, well, I just wanted to say hi. So I was just like, okay, maybe it's not the best connection, for us. It started off good, but it went flat real fast. So I think it's like understanding, like, okay, if he wants to reach out, it's in his court now, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm not gonna keep digging for that, because the way that response went, right? So I think it's like feeling the vibe and knowing like, this person definitely is into me, this person is definitely like reaching right back out to me. And then sometimes you get inspired by people that are like even doing it better than you or something like that. You're like, how do I get better like that person? Get inspired by others. So just being around people, learning how to connect and communicate with people, I think is good. But yeah, just like also that tool, that CRM tool that I had was helpful. It's like, if they're not responding, they're not interacting, like how many times am I gonna do it? I'm getting more people that are actually more involved and constantly connecting. You could always have like a marketing thing, like, why don't I just send out an email to all the people I connected to in the last 3 months and say, how's everybody doing? And then see who grabs onto that. And then it's like, you're not just reaching out to them and getting the no response, you're sending it out to everyone, and that might catch someone at a perfect time. They're like, oh yeah, I can reach back out again, I'm just really busy, so I'm gonna use this way to go and connect with them. That help?
Yeah.
Other questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good. Thank you,
So, before you go, so a couple of comments from online. So one is Jessica. She said she had to leave, but she really liked the step-by-step format with the examples. Okay, so I think that was really good. There's a question from Craig about mostly social media measures and looks for quantity of connections, right? So how do you balance quantity versus quality of connections?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a growing thing over time, right? Because you don't really know how much quality you're gonna get out of this one connection that you just made. But, for example, Jackie and I met instantly, connected, invited each other to tour and learn more about what we do. And then it just like flourished from there, right? Because we both followed up. So that was quality. But she wasn't the only person I met that year. There was tons of people that I went out and met and toured and connected and reached out to. So I think it's not necessarily a numbers game, but I think it's like knowing what you have to do to connect with people. So for a more structured response in sales, you do have goals, you do have responsibilities to fulfill. And so what made it really easy for me is knowing that I have to go to at least one networking event a week.
Hmm.
And then knowing that I need to make probably 50 or 60 calls a week, or maybe more than that, you know, because sometimes you don't get connected to the person right away. And so just knowing that, like, okay, my goal is gonna call 5 new people that I've never really connected to before. And then 5 old people that I already know, that I'm gonna have a really good established relationship with. And then I'm gonna go to a networking event, and I'm gonna meet new people and old people, and I'm gonna start that little circle of like follow-up. As far as statistics, I mean, when you wanna see like the lines go up, you just use the tools that work for you. For us, we have the CRM and the sales systems. And we can track that, on your social media accounts, you can go into your statistics, like your LinkedIn statistics. So for example, like, I had enough following to do a post about the new job. And then when I did a post about the new job, I got over 100 likes, I got 5,000 impressions. That was like, whoa, like that's big. Like,
Right.
I think the most I get out of a post sometimes is maybe 10 likes and maybe 200 impressions. So to get 5,000 impressions, it showed like that consistency over time. So I think
Yeah.
it's like having like that structure of, I'm gonna do at least one networking event a
Right.
week, maybe 2.
So what I'm hearing is both are important, quantity and quality. So everything starts with the quantity because you're first connecting, right? But then what you're saying is to increase the quality of the connection by either meeting in person, doing something that it's, you know, a phone call where they hear your voice, or doing something that's valuable for them, right? So that's interesting. I hope that answered the question. One thing I really liked how you presented. I really liked it felt very off the cuff, okay, with the examples and everything. This is something that I'm trying to do myself as well. I heard it the other day. That last screen is the screen that has been on for the longest time,
This one,
that screen.
oh,
right?
okay,
So they say, never use that screen just to say thank you. Have
Yeah.
a very strong call to action, right?
yeah.
Yeah, call to
So
action.
normally I'd probably put a QR code on it.
Right,
But I was just.
but also ask, what is the QR code for, right? So
Yeah.
do this, right?
Yeah,
So that's my only tip there.
cool.